Wow. Good morning, FIU. How is everyone? It's a tremendous privilege to be here and speak with you. I thought I'd start off by telling you a little bit about myself. You heard that I'm alumni, but I am also a Miami native son. I was born and raised here. I was born at Mount Sinai Hospital on Miami Beach a very, very long time ago. And it wasn't, I don't even think they had electricity then. And I graduated from public high school here, Miami Norland High School, if anybody's familiar with Miami Norland High School. I graduated from there. And then I found myself at FIU. And like every great marketer, I got an accounting degree from FIU. Makes a huge difference. I met my wife, Teresa, at work many, many years ago at Alamo Rent-A-Car, where we were both revenue management analysts. And then, you know, and everybody doesn't understand why I put my dog there before my kids, but I really do love my dog. This is Storm. Storm is 18 months old, and Storm is a storm. I mean, he is a madman. These are our two boys, Ben and Zach. It's funny, I had to update some of these pictures. I'd be lying if I said this is the first time I've used this slide. It's not. And, you know, the old picture was so obvious because I used to say one's the devil child and one's the angel child. This one's a little less obvious, and with Storm in the picture, trust me, he's the devil child. But we're blessed to have two boys. One's 16, one's 17. One's going to be a senior in high school. One's going to be a junior next year. Very excited to get them out of the house very soon. And as I said, you know, I'm born and raised in South Florida. Lived here most of my life until I got the opportunity to move to St. Pete and be the CMO of Outback Steakhouse, which is in Tampa. And it was one morning when I walked out of our house at 5 in the morning in a gated community, and this was my wife's Escalade. And I said, you know what, honey? Maybe it's time to find some other place to live. And it's not really an indictment of South Florida. I love South Florida. I would move back here in a heartbeat if I got a great opportunity. So for any of you that are working at wonderful companies and they need, you know, an executive, please make sure you mention my name. I'd love to come back here someday. You know, I've been blessed. I've had, you know, not only do I have, you know, obviously a wonderful family, but I've also had an incredible career. And it's funny because I'll probably talk about it like I'm on the back nine of my career. Even though I feel very old, I'm relatively young in the world of corporate America. And I started very young. I started at Alamo Rent-A-Car when I was 19 years old. And I was a student at FIU. And I started at Alamo Rent-A-Car because when I turned 18, my dad set me down and said, you're 18 now. You need to start thinking about what you're going to do for health insurance. And I was 18, I was invincible. Why do I need health insurance? But since he brought it up, I thought I might want to look into it. And I started looking around for a job, and I found this little car rental company based in Fort Lauderdale that if you worked 20 hours a week, you got full benefits. And I mean full benefits. It was unbelievable. They pay for your school and everything. And so I started in a reservation center there, working part-time. A lot of night shifts. A lot of weird people work night shifts in a 24/7 facility, trust me. And, you know, little did I know when I took that part-time job at Alamo Rent-A-Car in 1989 that it would turn into a 13-year career in the car rental business. And, you know, when I graduated FIU with my accounting degree, much to my parents' chagrin, they thought I was going to go work for a big accounting firm. And instead, I was offered a supervisor position in that call center, which really managed 3 call centers around the country, 900 employees, 24/7 operation, 365 days a year. And I got to manage those very weird people that work night shifts. And it was a real growing experience. The first time I ever had to terminate somebody, I was 21 years old. I had to terminate a graveyard reservation agent. And he tried to run me over in the parking lot that very same night. That was cool. I thought, wow, this is fun. I was sitting in an audit class wondering if I was going to pass it, and now someone's attempting to murder me for terminating them from their hourly job. But that's what happens sometimes, right? So I got to work 13 years in this company. It was a really interesting journey. I spent most of my time in the car rental business in revenue management, and And in the travel industry, and some of you are probably, I'm guessing, being that you live in this area, working in the travel industry, you know what revenue management or yield management does. You know, at that time, it was a great way to learn a business because you touched every part of it. And that's where I met my wife. We were both revenue management analysts together. We were bought by AutoNation, and then AutoNation bought National, and they merged us, and they sent me up to Minneapolis, where National was based, to try and talk all those employees to move down to Fort Lauderdale. Back in the early 90s, you'd be amazed. Nobody wanted to leave Minneapolis, and I didn't want to be there because there was 3 feet of snow on the ground, and I'd never seen snow before in my life. And so we got 10% of the entire company from National to move down to Fort Lauderdale. It's hard to imagine when you're from here that you can barely get people to live here. Merged the two companies together, went into operations, got a real taste and admiration and love and passion for operations. And the operations of the car rental business, particularly for Alamo Rent-A-Car in Florida, was massive. You know, at that time, I was responsible for all of the front-end operations for the state of Florida. Florida is the largest car rental market in the world, and at that time, Alamo was the largest car rental company in the market. So at our Orlando facility, for example, back then, 77-acre facility, we'd do 30,000 transactions on a peak day. Fleet of buses, mechanics, you name it. I mean, it was a big operation. And things were going pretty well, and then they didn't. The company went Chapter 11, so I got to work through Chapter 11. I got to stay there and help turn the company around. And, you know, decided that I really wanted to get into marketing. You know, I dabbled in marketing, but really never had the opportunity to do it. And if you are living in Miami and you want to work for a big brand, in my opinion, there's really only one, and that's Burger King. And so I had the great opportunity to go down to Burger King and be a director of field marketing. That's where I started. That's really where I started my marketing career. So here I am, operations experience, finance experience, revenue management experience, and I got somebody I tricked somebody into giving me a marketing job, essentially. That's because I grew up on a used car lot, and if you talk to me long enough, I can sell you almost anything. And so just went on this unbelievable run at Burger King. You know, it's like when I started as a reservation agent at Alamo, I never thought I'd be there 13 years and do what I did. I never thought I'd get to do what I did at Burger King. And what I realized was I was really good in bad situations. I got to Burger King. The week that I got there, they sold the company. Diageo sold it to some private equity folks, Bain Capital, Goldman Sachs, TPG. And I had 5 CEOs in the first 4 years I was there. A lot of change. We lost 1,000 restaurants the first month I was there. 1,000 restaurants went out of business, mostly franchisees. It was tough. And but I was fortunate. I got the blessing of the private equity sponsors hiring some really good executives to come in, and I got to work side by side and learn and teach and grow, and spent 9 years there and worked all the way from field marketing to the chief marketing officer of North America. And what a fantastic thrill! I mean, that's a fun brand to work on. I was there during some of the very best years of that brand's history. We went on a 6-year run of positive sales, won Marketer of the Decade. That's only been given out 3 times by Ad Age. Nike, Budweiser, and Burger King. That's it. And so it was a heck of a run, and I learned a lot, and I feel very blessed for that. And, you know, one day I came into the office, and as close as I thought I was to the CEO, he was a good secret keeper because he sold the company to 3G. And so, you know, when something like that happens, particularly a group like 3G, and I respect the heck out of them. They're incredible business folks. And I was faced with a decision. What do I want to do? Do I want to stay here? All the people that I had rebuilt the company with were leaving. And so I made the decision I was going to look for something new. And fortunately, you know, I had some really great angels in my career and some great alliances that I've had created over the years. And Bain Capital had bought, at the time it was called OSI, which owned Outback Steakhouse, Carrabba's Italian Grill, Roy's, and Bonefish Grill. And so I reached out to one of our board members who was at Bain Capital, and I said, hey, I hear Outback's looking for a CMO, and I might be interested in that. And he said, I'll make an introduction. I went up to Tampa. I met with the folks at Outback, and the rest was history. The very next month, within a few weeks, I was sitting at the CMO chair at Outback Steakhouse. And what an incredible opportunity and incredible privilege to go from a brand as ubiquitous as Burger King, that is fast food, obviously, drive-thrus, quick serve, to a full-service brand that's ubiquitous as well, Outback Steakhouse. And went from a model where we were mostly franchised to a model where we owned almost all of our restaurants. And when I came into that company, someone set me down, my boss set me down and said, listen, I know where you're coming from. I know you're coming from Burger King. That's a very marketing-centric company, and it was. Marketing ruled the roost at Burger King. She said, this isn't like that. This is an operations-centric company, and marketing is subservient to operations. And that was kind of a wake-up call. I'm like, whoa, I don't know. I'm not sure I know what that's like. But I know that I love the hospitality industry, and I know that I love great food and great alcohol. And I said, this is for me. And it's been incredible. I mean, we take such pride in being restaurant operators. We say we're a company of restaurants, not a restaurant company. And it really is a completely different side of the coin from working in a big fast food company. And I've had the good fortune to work on all the brands, and now I have the good fortune to be the president and lead Carrabba's Italian Grill. And I could literally spend days talking to you about Carrabba's Italian Grill and how proud I am of what we do, and really all the brands, but particularly Carrabba's. So this is the world according to Mike. Doesn't mean it's right. It's just how I see the world, right? So, for me, what's marketing? It's math. There's a lot of math. If you don't think there's math in marketing, you miss some classes. I promise you. There's a lot of math. Because a lot of people, if you haven't been in marketing or you're not a marketing student, think marketing is creating television commercials. And it's not. If you're in an environment that you get to create marketing commercials, like television commercials, that's rare. Doesn't happen a lot in marketing. There's not a lot of brands that have the money to do that. But what I love about marketing and where I get to really have a lot of fun is the next piece, which for me is the magic, right? And, I think it's pretty clear given my background that I have a bit of an analytical bend, right? I mean, I spent a lot of time in revenue management. I have an accounting degree. If you, on the surface, you might go, he's not, why is he in marketing? Because of this piece, and I love this piece. And I feel one of my purposes in life is to be a crusader against anybody that will kill creativity with analytics. You got to have the perfect balance, right? And few people have figured out how to master both. And by no means have I mastered both, but I'm certainly sensitive to the need for math and magic, right? A lot of people don't understand how much analytics plays a role in marketing. This is the world of Outback, right? So think about this when I was the Outback CMO. And pretty big budget, Not as big as Burger King. I left a $440 million marketing budget. That's a lot of fun. If you ever get that much money to spend on marketing, you're going to have a blast. Particularly in a franchise system where you're obligated to spend every dollar every year. It's amazing. You can do a lot of stupid stuff, and you don't have to ask for forgiveness very much. Sometimes you do, particularly those days at Burger King when we were doing really crazy stuff. But here, in an environment where they're all company-owned restaurants for the most part, I had a $135 million budget, all the bells and whistles. You have Marcom, you have media, you have field marketing, you have production and creative services and product marketing and loyalty and marketing analytics and consumer insights. And in every one of those buckets, I promise you, there is math. Every one of them. Every one of them requires some level of analytics, some level of insight, and a little bit of magic, particularly when you get into the advertising. And so whether you talk about media and you think about, the media you own, the media you buy, the media you earn, field marketing, how you're going to invest locally into messages that are relevant in those communities, how you're going to be a member of those communities. It's really important at Bloomin' Brands and our brands because we are, we're owner-operator model. So all of our restaurants are run by managing partners. They're folks who have skin in the game, and we want to empower them to be the mayors of their communities. You have production and creative services. there's a lot of math that goes into marketing. And it shouldn't go unseen by any of you folks that are in the room that are either embarking on your marketing career, well into it, then you know, or thinking about it. You're not going to escape math. You're just not. And you're not going to escape analytics. So when you think about, you know, and I'm not like a scholarly, you know, to be honest with you, and the president of the university hates it. I barely graduated from FIU, let's be honest, right? I'm a doer. I'm not a studious person. I just like to get out there and break stuff and figure it out. But, you know, it helps when you do have an understanding of the technical aspects of whatever you do. It helps a lot if you're like a surgeon. You should really know the technical aspects of what you do. If you're a marketer, you're not going to kill anybody, hopefully. You can fake it a little bit like I've done most of my career, or you just go out and do it and you break stuff. But you know, clearly the marketing funnel, that's a real thing. Trust me, it's not going away. And there's analytics at every level of the funnel. You know, from the very inception of a marketing idea or a campaign, you know, who are you targeting? You know, why are you targeting them? What resonates with them? What are you going to tell them? What's going to compel them to come and do whatever it is that you want them to do? And then you have to think about how you're going to create awareness and consideration, and how are you going to get them to buy your product, and how are you going to create loyalty with them. And once you've created loyalty, hopefully you create raving lunatic advocates for your brand. There's math in every part of that funnel, I promise you. There's also magic in much of it. And the magic is harder to teach, I think, than the math, but they're equally as important. And, you know, I think most of you, hopefully all of you, get, you know, the media platforms and the metrics, but I thought it'd be worthy to spend a minute on it. Look, if you're going to create awareness on a broad scale, there's nothing like television. We'll spend a lot of time talking about digital. The ROIs are difficult in television, but if you got a brand like a Burger King or a Outback, you have to create broad level awareness. And then you use that, and then you use the analytics to really start to narrow down and pick apart the customer and send the messages you want to the customers you want at the times that you want. And there are measurements and math for every portion of the funnel. I promise you, every single portion. And, you know, I'm long-winded, and so I want to get to some of the more fun stuff. So, you know, I thought I'd share with you how this all comes together in terms of a real-life marketing campaign. And so when I got to Outback Steakhouse, I had walked into the door coming from Burger King with a good and a bad reputation, particularly from that era in marketing from Burger King. I came in with a reputation as, wow, he's a really provocative marketer. This isn't a really provocative brand, although I would argue that Outback is. I thought it was a close cousin to Burger King when I got there. And they were playing around with this thing that they were doing from a innovation perspective, in that they wanted to bring wood-fired grill into the restaurant. They'd always done a flat top, seasoned and seared. That's the Outback thing. But they wanted to bring in a wood-fired grill, and they wanted to do a big launch. They just didn't know what to do. And so that was basically my first assignment walking in the door, is how do you create awareness around this big idea? And so we ended up calling it the Great Aussie Stakeout. We said, well, in true QSR fashion, and this is where I still had my QSR gene, which is quick serve, fast food, let's give away 1 million free steaks. And it like freaked everybody out. Steaks are expensive. Do you know how much a steak costs versus a Whopper? Are you crazy? And I said, no, we'll make it work. And so I immediately started to shock the people in the building, which is a good and a bad thing. Fortunately, this worked and I survived, but if it hadn't worked, I would not be here right now. I'd be washing cars or something. But not that there's anything wrong with washing cars, by the way. But we created this really holistic 360-degree campaign, and we touched every part of that marketing funnel, and we had analytics for every dang part of it, I promise you that too. And so I thought I'd share with you a little bit of some of the work here. Hopefully it's all going to play. But, you know, for us it started with TV, right? Let's create a 30-second, 15-second spot. You know, as I said, Burger King, not quite as much money, Outback, not quite as much money at Burger King, but still a respectable budget, $130 million. let's create a great 30-second spot. Went down to Australia and shot this spot.
Million steak dinners absolutely free, and we're doing it right now.
1 million steaks?
1 million? It's crazy.
Not one steak, 1 million steaks.
For free?
That's right, not 100, not 100,000. Outback's giving away 1 million juicy 6-ounce sirloin dinners absolutely free to celebrate their new wood fire grill. So go to outbackfreesteaks.com immediately to claim your free 6-ounce beauty before someone else does. Don't just sit there drooling, hop on it. They're going bloody fast.
So is it clear what we were doing there? What? What else? That's right. You know, when I look at creative, I ask myself 2 questions. What's it saying? How's it make me feel? Those are 2 questions I ask myself all the time. And, you know, this is where, so pretty straightforward, 30-second television spot. And then I said, okay, you hired somebody from Burger King. You saw the work we just did over the last 8 or 9 years. I mean, we did cock rock, for Pete's sakes, and subservient chicken, and all these crazy things. But understanding that this was a little bit more of a conservative culture, I said, you know, for me, I have a few marketing principles. One of them is no dead ends. And so we were going to create, our agency came back with an incredible idea. They said, hey, let's create billboards outdoor on the highway. And let's make them smoke. Like, you know, like make them look like a grill and make them smoke. And I said, that is a freaking awesome idea. I love it. But I have a rule that there's no dead ends. And so if that billboard's smoking, there has to be a reason. Like, you have to follow it all the way through. There has to be a reason why that billboard's smoking. And so the agency took the challenge, and they went very quietly in the middle of the night in LA and created a video that went viral. But it was not accredited to anybody. So a lot of people knew that it had to be fake, but a lot of people didn't, and we had a lot of fun with it.
Jonesy, we got Rodrigo over there, both pretending to work. Hey guys, guys.
The 1-inch coffee, right?
Hey Jonesy.
Hi, Jesse.
Jonesy.
I want half pressure on
We're
that
trying to
line.
look cool, man. Hey, Jonesy.
What the hell are you doing?
Come on, man. Quit busting my hump. You're blocking my shot. Just move to the side. Get out of
Everybody
here.
back up. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire in the hole.
And we are hot. We're hot. All right. Looks sweet. Whoa, 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 guys. Guys, hold, look at the corner. Is there any way to put that out?
Fire!
I thought that thing wasn't supposed to be flammable. Whoa! Oh my God! Oh no! 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 Oh man! What the f***? Whoa! Get out! Get out! Oh shit! Outback is gonna be pissed. There goes our bonus, gentlemen. Watch it burn.
So we had a little fun there. And, you know, very intentional, right? Very, very intentional, all leading towards something. And, you know, it helped tell our story, and it helped bring it to life, and it got us talked about. And, you know, we think about, as you think about media in your lives as marketers, you got to think about all of the elements. You're going to pay for media, you're going to own media, and you have to earn media. And this is what happens when you earn media.
A billboard on fire near the Outback Steakhouse. The guys that were flames shame.
That's exactly what happened more than once when motorists saw this.
I just passed your billboard. It's just going to be just south of Indian Trail. Just smoldering smoke coming from the billboard at this time.
A billboard advertising Outback's new wood fire steaks. with real smoke billowing out of several spots. In a written statement, Outback Steakhouse Marketing says, "We alerted the fire department about the sign 2 hours before we activated it."
We did.
Fire and Rescue says that message never made it through the ranks before police and fire trucks were dispatched to check it out.
Well, we've got several callers now advising that the smoke is going to be part of the billboard.
Hence that small print tagline up there. Wood Fire Grill, good for steaks, bad for billboards.
Think about that. CNN, national news. They talked about our new offering. They said our tagline. Think about that. I don't know anybody at CNN. I don't even think we're buying advertising on CNN. Think about that. That's the power of paid, owned, and earned. That's the power of analytics. Everything on this wheel, this 360-degree marketing, was driven by analytics and measured on the back half, because then as marketers, we have to justify our existence, unfortunately. They just don't take our word for it, right? And so this was probably one of the best examples, at least from my casual dining career. I have many examples at Burger King, where, you know, it all came together. It all came together because of very purposeful, intentional planning, methodical thinking, and a lot of math. And it was a lot of fun. Now, I'll tell you, I have way more failures for every one of these successes. That's going to happen too as a marketer. It's just the way that it is, and you have to survive those and have a strong stomach. So I know I'm a little over on my speaking portion, and we want to get some questions going here. So thank you guys very much for listening to my story.
Hello? Oh.
Mic check.
Actually, it's a very simple question.
Yeah.
Did you have to go to Australia for that commercial, or you just had to spend the marketing money?
I had to go to, I had to be there and supervise.
Okay.
How many of you have been on a television commercial shoot? Then you TV commercial shoot. So you know how boring it is. Yeah, it's incredibly boring. It's not sexy at all. Especially if you're shooting food. We spent 8 hours one day doing a butter dunk shot, where they created a pneumatic machine that would take the fork and dunk it into butter, so you get the perfect splash. It's not fun.
Good morning. My question is on your earned media.
Yeah.
Was it planned?
Well,
or was it by mistake?
Well, with earned media, you hope. You hope. You have an idea and you hope that you create interest and that people talk about it, like CNN did.
Or
and
did your
it doesn't always work.
Did your PR people have anything to do with it?
No, that was no. Our PR people probably would have talked us out of that. That was an ad agency and me just doing what we wanted to do and not telling anybody. What else?
Here, question. Thank you for the presentation, but I wanted to know what the operation, being under the operations side and some campaigns like you had, what's life behind the scenes?
Well, I will tell you, and literally it could be an entire day presentation. So for the better part of 15 years, I was a marketer, and now I get to come back and harness all of my experience and be a general manager. And even within my company today and my brand, Carrabba's, I see things very differently today in the chair that I sit in than I did when I was the marketer responsible for this brand. And that is a really weird thing when I'm telling marketers no to things I would have been asking to do. And so it's just a very weird journey. I'd love to come back and talk to you guys about that someday, because it really could fill up a day.
Hi. No, go ahead. So, hi.
Hi.
Is it open? Oh. Claudia Esther from Digital Marketing 305. So my question is, considering that you've been in the industry for such a long time, right, in marketing since maybe before digital was so important, so what are the biggest changes that you notice that we have as marketers to encounter in a CMO role when it comes to marketing digital? And,
Yeah,
you know what?
It's a great question, because you're right. When I was at Burger King in the early days, obviously there was an internet, but there wasn't a Facebook at the beginning of my career at Burger King, and everything was new. YouTube was new, Facebook was new, and there wasn't any measurement. And traditional marketers, and I say traditional marketers, I mean older, not progressive marketers, they wouldn't do anything unless they could measure it, right? Everything needs an ROI, and ROIs are important. Don't let me mislead you. But one of the mantras that we had at Burger King was we were going to go there. We were going to go to social media. We were going to go and be active in digital before the measurement for one simple reason. That's where our customer was. And so today, there's a lot of bells and whistles and a lot of measurements around digital, and it's clear that it's where you want to put money. I think it's a balance, though. You know, and I see this, we're dealing with this at Outback right now, and I'm not even responsible for that brand, where we actually started to overinvest a little bit in digital. We said, hey, well, let's just take more money out of television because the ROIs are so good in digital. The reality of it is broad media like television drives traffic. You don't love the ROI, but it allows you to speak to the most amount of people at once, and so you really got to have this balance. Digital is incredibly important. It's a larger and larger mix of our media spend every year, and all the measurements are there. But at Burger King, we didn't care that there were no measurements. We knew the consumers were there, and that's really the message is you got to listen to your consumers. You got to know where they're at. You got to know how to speak to them, and so incredibly important. Digital, as I said, is a larger and larger part of our mix, but you got to be careful. You really have to be careful.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
So I'm one of those people that kind of like preaches digital all day and how TV is like old and outdated. And you said something about TV, how it's key for broad level awareness. I wanted to get your thoughts on digital TV and like streaming services. You know,
Yeah.
'cause like a big thing for us is like the cord cutter audience. Like, how important is it? How has it been important in recent years, and how is it going to be for the future?
Yeah, it's a big part of our mix. I mean, we actually, and for those of you that are working in marketing departments, you know how you think about media, linear, nonlinear, right? And so, you know, when we talk about video and we talk about we don't talk about TV anymore. We talk about video, and online video is part of that. And at the end of the day, we're trying to hit certain metrics because of the math, right? We want to talk to as many people as possible. And the math and the metrics help us understand the size of the audience that we're speaking to. The thing that's undeniable about any digital platform, whether it be streaming video or display advertising, which I could talk to you about PC or desktop display advertising, that'll be another meeting. But the thing about those mediums are they're very targeted, which is great. Like I know with some level of certainty who I'm talking to. It's a little more blurry when you get into traditional media like radio and television. But yeah, I mean, it's online videos is a big part of our mix. Has to be. What else?
Is it on? Oh, it is. Hi. Thank you for coming. And I wanted to ask you a question on the fact that you were at Burger King and it was so marketing centric, but then you moved on to Carrabba's and it was very operationally centric. And I work for restaurants on the corporate side, and I think those two have to work together because otherwise nothing works.
Yeah.
And how did you, not convince, but how did you get Carrabba's to actually let you run the reins a little bit more with the marketing rather than their operation system?
Well, remember I told you I grew up on a used car lot, so I tricked my boss. No, she gave me the opportunity because, you know, fortunately I did have, you know, some pretty well-rounded experience. You know, in my car rental life, I spent a lot of time in operations. Very different than the restaurant industry, but very similar at the same time. And, you know, what I learned a long time ago, and I learned this at Burger King, is particularly when you're serving food and you're trying to create experiences for people, the brand manager can never trump the ops manager. You always have to put operations first, because if you don't, the guest suffers, and the guest can never suffer. Because they won't come back, right? And so, you know, I actually felt like I was in a pretty good position to step into a role like this. And, you know, at Bloomin Brands, you know, when I went there, we were called OSI. We've changed to Bloomin Brands. I was the first non-operator that they had ever put in a president's role. And so I'm still kind of a guinea pig. They're going to see how it goes. There might not never be another one, so we'll have to see. But yeah, so I think I had the right balance, and they were willing to give it a try, because the one thing they know about marketers are they're more growth-oriented than a hardcore operator. Because operators just want to keep everything as simple as possible, and that's important, really important, but you need a balance. Yeah, you bet.
Hey, my name's Jerica. I have 2 questions. So one, with the campaign that you ran for the million free steaks, so what were the results of that? Like, how many people did you get to sign up? Did you actually give out 1 million free steaks?
Yeah, so we gave away 1 million free steaks in 24 hours. We thought that it was going to take a week. And the scary part was I was kind of the technology wasn't quite what we needed in our restaurants to really be able to do this the way I would have ideally liked to do it. I would have liked for it to have been an all digital execution. So in other words, you sign up, I email you your coupon for a steak. It didn't work that way. We had to snail mail you your coupon. But we had, in 24 hours, over 1 million people register for that free steak.
Is that just the U.S. or is it international Outback?
That was just in the U.S. Okay. That was just in the U.S.
Okay, cool. And my next question is, so you talk a lot about analytics. So I guess your role as a president at Carrabba, do you do a lot of analyzing the analytics? And if you do, like, what do you use? Like, are you in Excel? Do you use Tableau?
Yes. We use a lot of Excel, unfortunately. We use Excel because we're not as sophisticated as we'd like to be. And we have a good sized analytics team who uses SAP and other platforms to help pull the data and then crunch the data and come to some conclusions. And then we look at it and then we come to sometimes the same conclusions or different conclusions. But yeah, it's all the above. A lot of customer metrics. For me, the guest is king. We need to hear what they say and react to that as much as we need to look at the math and the analytics. And so we spend a lot of time looking at consumer data too.
It's really important too. So
yeah,
thanks.
What else?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm curious to know, how were you able to transition from accounting to marketing? Did you take any courses? Like, what were some of your challenges?
No, I'm, and Yanine hates when I say this. I was a horrible student. You probably told you that already. And when I graduated college with my accounting degree, I never really went and practiced as an accountant. I went right into the operations in the car rental company, and probably the closest I came was at being a revenue management analyst, and then manager, and then director, and always just really being data driven, but very consumer centric. I've always been curious about what the consumer thinks, how they act, how you can get them to do what you want them to do, and that kind of curiosity. By the way, if you're going to be a marketer and you're not curious, you should find something else to do. Seriously. Curiosity is probably the most important thing that a great marketer needs to possess. I didn't answer your question, but close enough? Okay. Thanks, everybody.